they're teaching you in the bridge course? Don't remember.
The reproduction chapter for flowering plants.
Okay, so that is like class 12 part only, reproduction and flowering plants. So we'll start with that chapter only, okay?
Okay, ma'am.
All right, sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Now, in 11th class, you have studied about plant kingdom, right? And in that, you saw that the flowers that produce, sorry, the plants that produce flowers, right? We call them as the flowering plants, or we call them as the angiosperms, right? So those angiosperms, they are special. Why? Because they are flowering plants. They produce flowers for their reproduction. So all in all, if you think about it, the beautiful flowers that we so adore, those are reproductive structures of the plant. Okay, all like the male, the female reproductive structure, everything is present in that flower. So in this chapter, we are going to see the structure of a flower. We're going to see the parts of a flower, which part is the male part, which is the female part. How are these parts, like you can say, participating in reproduction? And we are going to see variety of processes that happens in the reproduction. So the whole entire event of sexual reproduction. Now, can you quickly tell me the difference between sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction?
In sexual reproduction, it involves the fusion of gametes.
Correct.
And asexual, it doesn't require that.
What else?
The offspring is identical in asexual reproduction. And in sexual reproduction, the offspring is somewhat identical, but it's not completely identical.
Apart from that, asexual reproduction is uniparental. Only one parent is involved. Sexual reproduction requires both the parents, male and the female. Clear? Good. Now see, the whole entire sexual reproduction of the flowering plants, they have been divided into 3 stages. Pre-fertilization, meaning every single event, every single changes, every single thing that is going to happen before the fertilization takes place. That is called as pre-fertilization event. Then there are some events, the next stage is the fertilization event, meaning everything that is going to be happening while the fertilization is taking place. And the last one is the post-fertilization event. So this is the one that happens after the fertilization has been completed. Clear? So we are going to study each of these events, the things that happens in these events, and also the structures that are associated with the events. Clear? But before we move on to what happens in the event, I'd like to brush up a little bit about the ploidy. Right? The numbers of sets of chromosomes the organism has, we call that as ploidy. Now, ploidy is of 4 major types: haploidy, diploidy, triploidy, and polyploidy. Haploidy is when one set of chromosome is there. Diploidy is when 2 sets of chromosomes are there. Triploidy is when 3 sets of chromosomes, and lastly polyploidy, that is more than 3 sets of chromosomes. Right? If you remember these things. So the example of haploidy is gametes. All the gametes, they come under haploid because they have just one set of chromosomes. Diploidy is the zygote. Zygote is diploid. The body cells are diploid. Triploid means 3 sets of chromosomes. This is found in endosperm of the plant. We will talk about it. And then comes polyploidy. It is mostly happens in the rare cases or artificially made seeds or plants. Clear? So this much you recall?
Yes, ma'am.
Also, this is a basic thing. The vegetative reproduction refers to The kind of reproduction in which the body parts are used to generate the organism, right? The body parts. Then comes asexual reproduction. So here, uniparental reproduction is there. Clones are made and no gamete formation or fusion takes place. Example, budding, fragmentation, regeneration, binary fission, so many. Then comes sexual reproduction. Here, male and female parents are involved. They produce gametes. Those gametes fuse and makes the zygote. Now, during the pre-fertilization stage, let us see what all things happen before the fertilization has taken place. The first thing to happen is gametogenesis. Gameto refers to gametes. Genesis means to make it. So gametogenesis is the formation of gametes. So obviously, first, the foremost thing, it has to be the formation of gametes. So that is what happens. Then the gametes, in order to be fused with each other, the gametes have to meet each other physically, right? So that takes place by the gamete transfer, which is called as pollination. Clear? Now, during the fertilization, the zygote is formed by the fusion of gametes. And after the fertilization, meaning during the post-fertilization stage, embryogenesis happens, meaning the formation of embryo takes place by cell division and cell differentiation. Clear? Now see, this is the basic structure of a flower in which you can see all the parts of the flower. The colorful petals, right? Then there is the sepal, then there is the stamen, stigma. All of these are the parts of a flower. Now, if we talk about the units that are present in the flower, there are majorly two units present. One is the reproductive unit, which is directly involved in reproduction process. Directly, meaning they make the gametes, male gametes and the female gametes. So the male reproductive unit of a flower is androecium and the female reproductive unit of a flower is gynoecium. So androecium and gynoecium, these are the two reproductive units. Then comes the second kind of unit, which is the accessory unit. Now, accessory unit means they will not be directly involved in reproduction, but indirectly involved. They will be helping the process of reproduction to be taking place. But if you think about it, androecium, gynoecium, these are like a bunch. And it's difficult to study bunch all at once. So what we do, we take out single units from it so that we can study it better. So the single unit of the androecium is the stamen, one part. The single unit of gynoecium, the female part, the single unit of it is called as carpel, or you can call it as pistil. Single unit of calyx is called as a sepal, and the single unit of corolla is called as a petal. Okay, these are the single units, and you must remember what is the single unit of these major units. Now, if you remember from morphology, there are certain plants in which the petals and sepals, they can't be distinguished. Remember? No. The face says no. So those things wherein the sepals and petals, they are fused. You can't tell them which one is what. We call it as a perianth. Rings a bell? No. And the one unit of perianth is called as tepal. It's just for your sake of understanding, extra knowledge. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts up until now?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now you can put the heading sexual reproduction in flowering plants and then you can start writing down. First you write the types of reproduction. Okay, done till here. Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So after that, we'll be starting with the stamen. Did you draw the diagram, the flower?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now we'll be talking about the stamen, which is the male reproductive unit. Now a stamen, it has two parts. One is the anther, the other is the filament. So this top portion that you see, this one, this is the anther. And this long portion beneath the anther is the filament. So the stamen is made up of the two parts. Now, talking about the filament, so it is a long and thin stalk. Slender or thin, it's the same thing. So the filament, it is a long and a slender stalk. The proximal end of the filament is attached to the thalamus or the petal, this side. The lower portion is attached either to the petal or to the swollen part of the flower called as the thalamus. Now, the stamens, their length and the number, like whether a flower has 2, 4, 8 or whatever, the number or the length and the length of the stamens, they vary depending upon the flower. Okay, so from flower to flower, the length and the number of these stamens, it is going to vary a lot. Moving forward, then comes the second part, which is the anther. Now, anther is the part of the stamen which is a bilobed structure. Bilobed means that it has two lobes present and it is dithecous, meaning two theca or two layers are surrounding it. Now, if you see in the diagram, if this is one part and this is another part, so there is this line that separates the two parts. So this line separating the two parts is called as the longitudinal groove. So it separates the theca. Now, when we cut the transverse section, for example, if you take an anther and you cut it like this is an anther, and you cut it like this, like in the middle, right? So this is a transverse section that you're cutting. And when you see it, so the anther has 4 sides. That is why we call it as tetragonal. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, now you note down till here. We'll take it slowly. I'll not rush because it's the starting. Done, Jason?